Hello and welcome to Gang Culture Podcast, a series educating you about gang culture. This season, our host Ellis Rouse continues to talk with an array of unique voices to inspire, empower, and cause change. But also this season, we are exploring alternative activities being offered to teens in Delaware. Whether you are listening at home, school, or on the way to work, we hope you enjoy and share with others.
Welcome to Gang Culture. I'm Matt Kelly, the producer of Gang Culture. Unfortunately, our host, Ellis Rouse, was not available today, but we had such a great guest we couldn't not delay. I'm sitting here with harm reductionist Leslie Palladino. Leslie is the Director of Overdose Prevention and Outreach at Impact Life, where she oversees youth programming, street outreach, and community-based health initiatives. Leslie leads the prevention-focused youth programs that combine education, peer support, and one-to-one case management, while also coordinating outreach efforts that serve individuals actively navigating substance use and housing instability. We are honored to have her on this week. Welcome to Gang Culture, Leslie.
Thank you. Y'all make me sound real good on paper. We love that.
To start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a harm reductionist?
Yeah. So I am a person in long-term recovery. So I'm coming up on 14 years sober. And I think like a lot of us that kind of work in the field, that was kind of what drove my purpose into the field. Just the lived experience and wanting to kind of help pull other people out of the river, so to speak. I started working for a nonprofit, kind of got introduced to street outreach as a career, which I really fell in love with. My first job was actually supporting female sex workers and kind of getting them whatever they really needed. I think it was an interesting place as like a abstinent person to kind of still almost be in the mix of everything. And I had kind of done every level of this field between like detox and housing and different stuff like that. But my heart really kind of landed with harm reduction because I really do kind of find a special purpose with people that are still in active use and just trying to see how we can support them or get them out of that. And really just kind of leading with like love and compassion and making sure people that don't necessarily have a voice know that they're not forgotten and hope's still out there.
So what is a harm reductionist?
Yeah, so it depends on who you ask if they agree with it or they don't. But in our book, it's really just supporting people in active use and kind of giving them any tools or resources that we can to kind of keep them as safe as possible while they're in active use until they kind of make the decision to find whatever line of recovery makes sense for them. And we don't really have like a template of like it needs to be a 12-step or it needs to be religion-based. Like we really just want you to be happy, healthy, and prosper. And we take the little wins and we take the big wins. So we just try to support people and make sure that they have somebody in their corner that's kind of advocating and walking alongside them. Yeah.
Well, obviously we're gang culture here. So while working at Impact Life, have you ever come face to face with any types of gang culture?
I would say safely assuming yes. My job is primarily on the street. So we're really anywhere where people are unhoused or actively using. And obviously we don't ever just walk up to people and ask flat out, like, are you affiliated? But most of us have the lived experience and have a little bit of the street knowledge, I guess. So yes, it's easy to kind of read sometimes the workings of what's going on out there. But
so you work in overdose prevention and outreach. Speaking as to that, someone who, as you said, you've lived on the streets. Do you think that there is a correlation between stuff like addiction and gang culture?
I don't think that it's necessarily between the two. I think sometimes you get the dynamic of, I'll just say I think at the core of both, people are trying to find a sense of community, whether it's kind of in a positive aspect or a negative aspect. My idea of gang culture may be a little bit different. Like I think that there's a negative connotation with it, same with addiction. But I also think that at the core, like I said, there's kind of a different searching for people. I think people that are using substances are using the substance as more of a solution to whatever the underlying cause is. I think sometimes with gang culture it's very similar, where there's a missing piece and there's a component that kind of comes with the family aspect of a gang. So I definitely think there's rollover for sure. Again, we don't really, it's not my business what people do. We try to just make sure that, we're we're cool, and we don't really ask some of the specific questions because we may not want to get the specific answers. So yeah.
What can parents, communities, and even other teens do to help youth that might be considering joining a gang?
I think, again, it sounds really silly, but I think the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think if you give people a purpose in life, it automatically kind of gives them a different direction to move in. So I would say kind of just encouraging the silly and encouraging your kids and the youth to try a bunch of different stuff. Even if you're like, I may not really find interest in this, but like, let me give it a go. The more kind of things that you have on the table to kind of take up time in a positive way, I think that's really half the battle. I think if you're kind of left to your own devices and are bored and don't really have much that's filling up your time, it's easy to kind of entertain maybe some of the wrong things.
Okay. How can teens tell the difference between a supportive friend and an unhealthy influence in
Love
their
this
life?
Question. I mean, I'm gonna go with your gut girly. So I think at least the advice that I've always given is if it feels off, it probably is. I mean, I think as a teenager, there were many times that like red flags presented itself, but out of the desire to like be a part of, I kind of just went with the flow. But I think there's definitely a difference between a real friend and somebody that's just there for the moment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, I always tell people, the peer pressure aspect is usually a telltale sign for me. If somebody's pressuring you to make a bad decision, it's usually because they don't want to make the bad decision themselves, or by themselves. So, yeah, I think that's usually, for me at least, kind of a big red flag.
You know, on top of that, while we're discussing that, obviously you have been very open about your journey.
Yeah.
In your 14 years coming up of sobriety. Was there a lot of peer pressure that led you down that road as well in your own personal life?
I think in the beginning, I don't think it was outright peer pressure. I think it was kind of more of my own anxiety, kind of feeling like I always kind of described it as I never felt like I belonged in my own skin.
Yeah.
And I think I was in some sense desperate for other people to kind of embrace me. So when things were suggested or offered, like I said, I kind of just went with the flow. But I think when substances kind of entered the picture, it just affected my brain in a different way. And I really kind of found a lot of solution in substances for many years. So that, I mean, at least that's what I remember the first time that I experimented with opiates, and that really was kind of like my love. But it was like, wow, I'm faster, I'm smarter, I'm prettier, people want to be around me. So it was like the answer to all of it in one little pill. And it was, at the time we had really no knowledge of like what opiates did and all the things that kind of led with that. So I looked at it that's like, this is just a solution. This is where my happy place is going to be, kind of, and not really understanding all the fallout that was going to come from doing that. Yeah.
Do you think there's a correlation between that and reasons why maybe a teen would feel like they would get something from a gang that they weren't getting from home?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all searching for that connectiveness. And again, for me, I kind of found the solution in substances, but I think it's very easy to find that with other people. I think whether it's like a group of friends or maybe an intimate partner, when people are kind of giving you this attention that you're not able to give to yourself, I think it's a very quick fix, and it's addictive in itself. And it kind of fills a void that feels really good in the moment, but maybe in long term isn't going to suit your best interest.
Do you have any success stories from your time as a harm reductionist?
Yes. And if she sees this, she'll probably cry. But I always tell her she's the one that we think of on the bad days. But there's a new substance that they've really kind of added to the fentanyl supply in Delaware. It's commonly referred to as trank, but it's really, really ravaged the people that we're serving on the street level. I mean, covered in wounds, just very medically compromised. But there was a girl that was in a certain part of Wilmington that we would see all the time, and really in the beginning she wouldn't talk to us too much. She would usually send somebody else to kind of come get supplies from us off the truck. But we knew that she had wounds, and there was some other stuff going on because she was always requesting wound care supplies. We pulled up one day, she was actually actively overdosing, reversed the overdose, kind of got her to a medical level of care. Wasn't really her time, so we're out a couple days later, she's back out having another overdose. Finally, kind of, for whatever reason, a higher power reached that day, and she agreed to go with EMTs and stay in the hospital and kind of get the wounds treated and all that. And all she wanted to stay in place was this like seasonal Chick-fil-A milkshake. So literally every day that we went to visit her at the hospital, my staff would like rotate. One day I would buy it, the next day somebody else would buy it, and we would bring her this milkshake every single day. But it kept her there. And then as kind of talking and building rapport, she had mentioned that she grew up on a farm and things like that. And we actually have a recovery farm for women in Seaford. And I was like, we have a farm. I could get you to a farm. You want to go to a farm? And like, eventually it just kind of, you know, she made the decision and she did all the work. She finished out the program. She's a little over 2 years sober now. She's very active with volunteering, and she's kind of coming into a space where she's starting to get asked to kind of advocate on her own story. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch because she's been through the ringer. She's experienced some really tough things and tough losses in her recovery, and really has just stood firm, 10 toes down. That's my girl. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to sometimes not get jaded with the amount of like loss and some of the horrible things that we see, but on the really tough days, she's the one that we kind of think of and call on.
I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of a picture of what Impact Life does. Can you tell us a little bit more and elaborate on the mission and how you got involved?
Yeah. So it's just something I'm incredibly proud of, but to be a part of, not, you know, but so our CEO and our founder, Domenica Prasanti, I've worked for her throughout probably my whole career, so over 13 years at this point. And she really has just always been kind of a cheerleader in every aspect. We were really kind of born out of COVID. So her and I were working for another company at the time, and COVID hit, everything was locked down, and a lot of our people couldn't access the medical systems to get treatment or referrals or whatever they needed addiction related. So we actually were like kind of triaging people outside of Wilmington Hospital and trying to get them where they needed to go, whether it was getting them to a detox or outpatient or whatever it looked like. And we applied for some CARES money. Well, let me backtrack. She's going to laugh if she ever sees this. There was a phone call that we had one night where I was like, dude, if anybody could start their thing and it really rock, like it's you. And she's like, I don't know. And she's like, if I did, like, would you jump ship? Would you come? And she's like, I don't even know if I'd be able to like pay you more than 90 days. And I was like, sign me up. So I technically was like the first paid employee, but I just knew her and I knew her heart and I believed in the mission so much. And really the goal for Impact was to not like saturate existing programs. We really tried to look at gaps in the system and build programs from there. Programs like the farm and all of our housing programs, like we don't charge an entrance fee to get in. The rent is very, very, very low. I don't even think we refer to it as a rent because they don't even really have to pay it. The outreach teams, the youth programming, we have recovery hubs all throughout the state that people can just walk into at any given point and find community and connection. If they need services, if they need Narcan, I mean, really everything under the sun. It's the purpose of Impact, I think, is really just to bring people together and help them find their purpose. You know, whether it's us kind of investing in the art spaces or the animals down at the recovery farm or us as the outreach team trucking through Wilmington, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, but our company's 90% peer-based, so 90% of the company, including our CEO, has lived experience, which I think is a really beautiful thing. And we really just kind of encourage people to let their freak flag fly. You know, that's really what it is. Like, nobody's silly, no idea is underrated. It's all very much a team effort. So my staff makes us look really good because they go out there and they do really amazing work and they do it for the right reason. So it's really it's a privilege. It really is a privilege, and it's an honor to really work alongside everybody that I get to on a daily basis. So, yeah.
You've mentioned the rehab farm twice now, so I feel like if I'm wondering this question, a lot of the listeners are wondering too.
Sure.
What is a rehab farm and how does it work?
So it is a 3.1 housing, so it's staffed 24/7, but it's on about 17 acres in Seaford. It's a fully functional farm that houses 10 women. It's geared towards pregnant and parenting women. Again, some of the feedback that we would get from some of our women that were either newly sober or getting sober, the reunification of their children was a really strong missing piece, and really kind of specific supportive services for that population. People always say like, oh, like the Mommy and Me is just so well funded. It's really not. It's also really filled with a lot of stigma and judgment. So there was a lot of data and statistics that kind of talked about the correlation between like caregiving for animals and a vulnerable thing, and how that kind of transfers to humans. I think women, I think addiction in itself is traumatic for anybody that experiences, but I think sometimes for women it's a little bit of a different beast. So we wanted to create a really safe place for them, and we have chickens and goats and pigs and alpacas and a donkey and a whole plethora of things down there. And the women get up every day and they socialize the animals, they caretake. But what we've kind of found is through that trust and bonding that they've had in that caretaker role, it's transferred beautifully over to like the reunification with their children and the families. And it's a really special program. So it's been really, I've done a lot of things in my career and I don't even get to work there as much. I really just kind of get to go down and hang out when I can. But the staff there is absolutely incredible. It's all female ran. So it's very trauma informed. And we've had many graduates from there so far. So it's a beautiful place. Yeah.
I feel like that's the type of place that probably would have a really high success rate out of it, like comparatively to staying at like a halfway house where you're working at like a call center. To pay for the halfway house. That's a lovely thing that I've never really heard of before.
Yeah, so I always like to, so Shar Hope is right over the line in Maryland. It was one of the programs that we kind of had visited years ago, Dominica and I, and we both left there jaw dropped. Like, I was just like, this is incredible. Like, why do we not have anything here in Delaware? And we had talked about it. It was kind of like a little dream of ours. And then HUD put out grant money, and we were like, hey, what would you think about this idea? And they were for it, and they funded it, and DSHA was a part of it, and we got really, really lucky. And the woman, Olga, she may never see this, but, the truth was sometimes people are not sympathetic to our population. So when people in the community kind of found out we were coming in the area, they were displeased a little bit. But the woman that sold us the house, I went down with my mom to visit it because Dominica was actually on a trip doing some other stuff. And when Olga asked me, she's like, well, what do you guys want to do here? And I was like, oh, well, and I kind of explained what the idea was. And she looked at me and she was like, I'm a woman of God, and like, I'll take it off the market today for you guys to do this work. And it just genuinely, like, I get chills when I talk about it, but the universe just laid it all out. Like, it was truly meant to be. So if you ever say this, Olga, shout out to you, because it's great. And she follows us on Facebook and gets to see all the updates. But yeah, it's a really cool thing to watch.
So your position, you're the director of overdose prevention and outreach. What's like your 9 to 5? Like, what's your day look like in that position?
You know what? It's really great because it's never the same day twice.
Okay.
I don't sit still well, so it's perfect for my brain and how I operate. But I always kind of joke with people, we may start in a school at 8 a.m. and then we're out on the streets doing outreach by noon. Last week we had a bunch of conferences. I also just completed like the Citizens Police Academy for Newcastle County, so that was like a big part of the past couple months. But it's different every day. But primarily it's street outreach. So we're really kind of in the communities, and we're in the belly of the beast a lot of the time, just trying to serve people, make sure they're cool, make sure they're safe, make sure they know they're loved. It's very strange when people see our interactions with the people we serve, because we genuinely end those conversations with, all right, we'll see you tomorrow, I love you. And they're like, all right, love you too, thank you. And people kind of look at us like we're crazy, but I'm like, those are our people, we're their people. So yeah, I enjoy it, and it's never a boring day. For sure. So yeah.
I feel like a lot of what you're talking about is about finding one's tribe, right? Finding the people that support you the most.
Yeah.
To bring it back to the focus of our show, about youth, preventing youth from getting into gangs. Do you believe, you used the phrase peer pressure earlier, talking about a few different things. Do you think that peer pressure could be used for good as well? Do you think that it's possible for a kid out there to pressure their peers into not getting into drugs,
Absolutely.
Not joining a gang?
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. So I spent my whole career saying I would never work with the youth because I thought it would break my heart. And in some capacity it does when you kind of hear the tough stories. But we held a youth summit in April, and we had like statewide schools, as far as Del Mar all the way up to Brandywine School District. And the amount of kids that did the PSAs that day, I think Billy recorded like 65 of them. They were running all day. And when I tell you, we watched them back and you could see that they meant every word of it. And a lot of it was around that exact question, like, how do you kind of influence your peers in a different direction? And you could tell it just wasn't for show. Like, there's people that could probably get up and spit really good game. That's not what it was. It was genuine, it was organic, it was authentic, and a lot of them want to become like ambassadors. And I think the interesting part is sometimes it's generational, right? So I think sometimes these kids are in a position to break those generational curses and take it very seriously. And we just want to make sure we kind of support in any way we can through that process. So absolutely.
If there was one message that you hope people walk away from this interview with, what would you want that to be?
Everybody's human. Everybody's human. Everybody has bad days. You never know what people are battling with. I'm probably corny when I say it. People get sick of hearing me say it, but like kindness really goes a long way. It's free. Anybody can do it. You have no idea how a kind word and a smile can change somebody's whole trajectory. So like lead with love, lead with kindness. Even like if you're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off, I always tell myself that person may have an emergency. Like, let me not even waste my energy. But yeah, I mean, it's really that simple. Like, we can do really kind things, and extraordinary things come out of the really small moments like that.
Whether a youth or an adult is listening to this episode and let's say they're very fascinated by everything that you're talking about here, what type of opportunities are there for volunteers with Impact Life?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, it's impactlifetoday.org, and there is everything from jobs that we're hiring and positions we're hiring for to volunteer opportunities. I think a lot of people are very fascinated with our Wilmington Cafe in Little Italy, and we get a lot of volunteers really at all the hubs throughout the state, but it's a nice way to kind of get a feel for the people we serve and the programs that we run. It really kind of gives a pulse to what Impact is at the heart. So yeah, if you check out the website and kind of follow from there, there's definitely opportunities.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Leslie. Thank you for joining us on Gang Culture, and we'll be back in the future with a new episode.
We hope you found this episode informative. We look forward to continuing the conversation, and stay tuned for our next episode.
You're listening to a production from The Cause. Learn more at causetheworld.com.